So this is question 4 of the 2023 FRQs. This one says, non-cyclic electron flow and cyclic electron flow are the two major pathways of the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis. In non-cyclic electron flow, electrons pass through photosystem 2, then components of the chloroplast electron transport chain, and then photosystem 1 before finally reducing NADP plus to NADPH in the cyclic electron flow. Electron cycle through photosystem 1 and some components of the electron transport chain. Okay, so this is giving you a diagram right here. It's always important to read the figure captions, especially in this one because it's telling you which one is cyclic and which one's non-cyclic. It says the pathways of non-cyclic and cyclic. So the cyclic ones are going to be where these like heavy arrows or bolded arrows are. So this is cyclic electron flow. The cytochrome complex is a component of the electron transport chain between the two photosystems. So they're saying that this is basically the ETC. Okay, so let's start with part A. Part A is very straightforward. It just says, describe the role of chlorophyll in the photosystems of plant cells. So again, just a general question like most of the part A's are. It's just asking you what the role of chlorophyll is. So chlorophyll is going to be a pigment molecule. You can say a couple different things for these, but the most straightforward is it's going to absorb the light, or you can say absorb like the energy. So capture energy, absorb energy, whatever it may be. This is the energy coming from the sun. Your pigment molecule, which is going to be chlorophyll, is going to absorb that. You could also mention the fact that it receives electrons from the electron transport chain, or helps transfer electrons, or receives electrons from water. Those are a little bit more specific to the steps. But the most basic thing that I would suggest would just say that it captures energy or captures light. Okay, so that one's pretty straightforward. And then B says, based on figure 1, explain why an increase in the ratio of NADPH to NADP plus will cause an increase of the flow of electrons through the cyclic pathway. Okay, so let's go back to our diagram. So increase the ratio of NADPH to NADP plus. So that's what's going on over here. So what that means is we have now more NADPH than we have NADP plus. Now, why would that cause cyclic electron flow, right? Where it would go back here. Now, the reason for that is very kind of similar to like our types of metabolism, right? Where to continue this cycle, you need to have NADP plus available, okay? So without NADP plus, you can't turn it into NADPH. If all of your NADP plus exists in the form of NADPH, again, similar like NAD with anaerobic respiration, this is fairly similar. It's like the homologous kind of process. If you have all your electrons stored in NADPH, you cannot do this reaction because you don't have the starting product anymore. If you don't have the starting product, you cannot do this reaction. So I have a really low amount of NADP plus because most of it exists as the end product. And so as a result, you're not going to do this at all. What's going to happen is the electron is then going to go back because it can't get added to NADP plus. There's no NADP plus, or there's a very low amount. So the electron has to go back through the pathway. It has nowhere else to go. It must go back to the cytochrome complex. So that's the reason. When you can say that when there is no NADP plus or less NADP plus, the electrons have to go back through the cyclic pathway. Okay, it can't continue on because there is no NADP plus. So we'll write that down. It says no NADP plus to accept the electrons. So if it did accept the electrons, it would go into NADPH. But because you have none of the starting product, you can't do that. So There's no NADP plus to accept electrons because most is stored as stored NADPH. So electron must go back through the cyclic pathway. It just simply can't go forward. Okay, so that's B. I think that should cover it. Okay, yeah. So then part C says, using rice plants, scientists examined the effect of a mutation that results in the loss of protein CRR6. CRR6 is part of photosystem 1 complex. So they don't give you CRR6 in this diagram, but we know it's part of photosystem 1. And its absence reduces the activity of photosystem 1. Predict the effect of the mutation on the rate of biomass or dry weight accumulation. And then I'm just going to continue and we're going to do D as well, which is justify your prediction. Okay. So CRR6 is part of photosystem 1. If we don't have CRR6, you are going to reduce the activity of photosystem 1. Okay. So let me just make a little room here. So this will be C/D. Okay, so a mutation in CRR6 would reduce its activity, right? It wouldn't be functional. So mutation in CRR6 results in, you could say no activation, or it's just like not there, in no activation. And when there is no CRR6, again, CRR6, its absence reduces the activity of photosystem 1. Okay, so mutation in CRR6 results in no activation, and then that reduces photosystem 1 activity. Okay, and then the second part of this question is asking you what kind of effect would that have on the biomass or like the dry weight. So if I'm reducing the activity of photosystem 1, what is going to happen to the plant in terms of biomass? So basically growth in size as a result. So if I reduce photosystem 1 activity, I will also be reducing the biomass or the dry weight. Reduces biomass, and again, part D was to justify this. So this is really part A. Part A, you reduce biomass, and that is because, well, what's the purpose of photosystem 1? Photosystem 1 is going to capture energy and help to make sugars. If photosystem 1 is not very active, you're not going to be able to make as much sugar, right? Inactive photosystem 1 or photosystem 2 is going to result in no sugar. And what do you need for growth? Sugar. So you reduce biomass because you're basically a lot more inefficient at producing, you can say ATP, NADPH, or just the end product, which is producing a carbohydrate / sugar. So it reduces biomass because the synthesis, we'll say, of carbs / sugar, so basically glucose, is reduced. And that would inhibit growth. You can't keep growing if you don't have any sugar. Inhibiting growth. Okay, so that one was pretty straightforward. That's question 4 for the 2023 FRQs.